Make sure you have drainage holes. Hey guys, my name is Devin and welcome to my channel. On my channel I talk about all things plants, and today we're going to be talking about easy care plants for beginners. Are you thinking about becoming a new plant parent? Well, join the crew and beware. It's very addicting. Once you start, you can't stop. These plants that I'm going to talk about that I have found that are easy for my house and my lighting situation, so it might differ. These plants are pretty foolproof, hard to kill plants, especially if you are an overwater or underwater. So let's just get into it. All right, our first plant is probably one of my favorite plants that I have. It is called the ZZ plant. And it is super easy. It requires very low light and it requires very minimal watering. So if you're someone that tends to forget about watering plants or worry that you're gonna overwater it, this is definitely the plant for you. It has very thick stems and the roots are actually like a big balls that store a lot of water. So you can leave for vacation for 2 weeks and come back and it's still there. It's not dead. It's very hard to kill. You can stick it in a lower light situation. It doesn't really like to be in bright light. I find these plants to be a little bit slower growers than most of my other plants. You won't see, maybe except for like once every growing season, a sprout coming up, but don't get discouraged. They're still growing. So super easy, very minimal watering, can tolerate and actually really likes low light, and it's a very dependable plant. So the ZZ plant. All right, next on my list is the sansevieria or snake plant or mother-in-law's tongue. They're a very common household plant and again, a super easy plant to take care of. They don't require watering often. Maybe I water it every 2 weeks. I wait till the soil is completely dry before I even consider watering it again. A good thing about these plants is that they can handle a lot of different lighting situations. So they can tolerate a lower light place, but they can also do really well in bright and direct light. The more light that you give them, the faster they'll grow. I have these plants scattered throughout my house between getting a direct sunlight and also getting a lower light situation. So they're good filler plants for places in your house. It's like an empty corner that you want to have a plant. They come tall, small, big. I also find them to be a little bit more slower growing for me. Once they start growing, they'll shoot up another shoot. Again, this is the snake plant, mother-in-law's tongue, sansevieria. Very common. You can find them almost in any big box store if you're looking for a great plant for beginners. All right, the next plant we all know and love, everybody knows them, is the pothos. Now this is a jade pothos, and the great thing about this species of plant is that they come in a bunch of different varieties. You know, the most common is the golden pothos, and then you have, like I have a neon pothos back there, or marble queens. And the good thing about these plants is that you can put them anywhere in your house and they will thrive and give you almost instant gratification of growth. So during the growing season, and even throughout the winter, if they have the correct lighting, they'll continue to sprout out new leaves and vine down. Pothos can handle any sort of lighting situation. They thrive in most indirect light. I have my pothos sitting throughout my house. I have some that are in between an east and west facing window. I have some that are in a lower light, like a north facing window, or up in the hallway where it doesn't get as much bright light, but in every situation they are still growing and thriving. As for watering needs, I only water them probably about 7 to 10 days. I wait till the soil gets completely dry, or if you stick your finger in and the first top 2 inches of the soil is dry, go ahead and just soak them through, let them drain out. Make sure you have drainage holes. The good thing about these plants is that they actually have their leaves start to curl a little bit or droop to let you know that they need watering. So that's a good sign for a new plant parent that, you know, is worried about overwatering or underwatering. I would err more on the side of underwatering than overwatering. Golden pothos, super easy plant, comes in many varieties. Stick them all over your house and let your obsession begin. All right, my next easy care plant is the Fittonia, the nerve plant. What I like about these and what makes them super easy is that they can tolerate and actually prefer a lower light situation. So I know a lot of times newer plant parents are worried that my house is not bright enough or it's not getting enough light, but this one actually prefers to be in a lower light situation. And they do require watering more often than most houseplants, but the good thing about this plant is that it actually tells you when it needs to water. It leaves droop down and it almost just kind of like collapses, and it's a bit of a drama king and queen, but it is a very good indicator of when it needs to be watered. And I water my plants with distilled water. I leave tap water out on the counter for a day or two to release all the chemicals. Some plants are more susceptible to the chemicals in water, so I just go ahead and use distilled water for all of my plants. I have this sitting in my living room, and she gets watered probably about every 4 to 5 days. Again, this is the Fittonia, the nerve plant. Super easy, likes to be watered, lets you know when it needs to be watered. It's got a cool design to it. So my next plant for easy care, this is the peace lily. This one is actually a domino peace lily, which has a variegated leaf to it. And with most variegations on plants, you'll want to put them a little bit in brighter light. I have mine in between an east-facing window and west-facing window in my kitchen, so it gets the morning light and a little bit of the evening sun, and it grows a lot faster than when I've had it previously in a little bit darker corner. But just like the Fittonia, it tells you when it needs to be watered. This plant does require a little bit more watering than your ZZ plants or your sansevieria snake plants. But the good thing about these is they do tell you when they need to be watered, and they don't like to dry out 100%. So if you start to see the leaves kind of curling downwards, is a very good indicator that you need to water them. This is the peace lily spathiphyllum. Again, this is the domino variety. They come in a wide variety as well, and they can get rather large, but they're also a very common houseplant to have and very beautiful. It has white blooms. I've really enjoyed having my peace lilies and highly recommend it as a beginner plant. Moving on to our next easy care plant is the Monstera plant. This is a Monstera deliciosa, and I also have a Monstera addisonii, which they're all part of the same family, different species of it. But this is also a rather easy care house plant. What makes Monstera plants easy care plants is that they can tolerate a lot of different things. They can tolerate a little bit of neglect. They do okay in lower light situations. They're okay in bright indirect light. You can skip a watering and they won't die on you. They grow very quickly. As you can see, this is a more baby one, but a new leaf is popping up. Mine's a younger one, so it has like a full leaf, but as they get larger, they get these leaves with the holes in it, as they call it, the Swiss cheese plant. As for watering needs, I just water them when the first 2 inches again are dry within the soil. They're not usually susceptible to root rot that easily, but if you do come across root rot, they're very easy to propagate and make new plants out of them, and they produce really quickly, so be prepared for them to grow very fast and very large. Again, this is a pretty baby one, but once you have it in the right situation, they can grow and grow and grow and be these crazy large plants. I have mine sitting in between an east-facing window and a west-facing window, so it gets the morning sunlight and it also gets the evening sunlight, so it gets enough lighting throughout the day where it's not sitting directly in bright light where it can burn the foliage. But it also, if you have a little bit of a lower light situation, you can place these in that room. Just they'll grow a little bit slower than if you had them in a bright light. So this is the Monstera addisonii. Has about the same light requirements and watering needs as the deliciosa, and as you can see, it grows wildly, and it has little fenestrations in the leaves. This one tends for me to be a little bit more finicky than the deliciosa. I have him sitting where it gets morning sun and then kind of like ambient light throughout the day, and it seems to be doing okay, and it starts to vine out, or you can stalk it up and it will start climbing up it. Monstera family. Easy, really rewarding, very large if you let them, plants to have. All right, the next plant is the Dracaena family. Now this guy looks like he has crazy hair, but this is the mini Dracaena tree. They're very easy to care for. They require very little watering and almost prefer to be a little underwatered than overwatered. I water mine when it gets almost completely bone dry. I'd rather have it bone dry than overwatered. They can tolerate a lower light situation again, and also a brighter light. I have a large Justyna tree, and it sits by my east facing window, so it gets the morning hours of sunlight as well as ambient light throughout the day. Another great plant to have if you kind of want to set it and forget it. They come in multitudes of different varieties. Like a lot of these plants, you can get them smaller compacted, you can get them as a tree. The thing is, they're very slow growing plants, so you won't get that satisfaction of a Pothos or a Monstera that have very fast, very visible growth. But if you're looking for a very steady, easy plant that adds some cool foliage in the background in the corner, or you just want a plant that provides life for you, the Justyna family, I would highly recommend. Very easy care, probably one of the easiest cares. The thing is that they do get brown tips on their leaves, which is very normal for a Justyna, and they also tend to drop a little bit of their lower leaves, which is just a natural shedding of an older plant. The brown tips on the leaves is, you can cut them off if you want, but it's very typical of these plants. The only thing I would say that is a requirement for them is that they do not like tap water. They don't like the chlorine and chemicals in the water. It actually tends to burn their foliage a little bit, again with the brown tips. So like I said, I usually use distilled water. You can use filtered water, rainwater if you have access to that. Other than that, Justyna family are very easy care plants. All right, the last plant on my easy care beginner plants recommendations is the Philodendron family. Now, like the Pothos and the Monsteras, they come in a wide variety of different species within the Philodendron family. So this is the Philodendron Brazil. As you can see, it has like the golden stripe down the middle, and they're a vining plant. And they're very easy to care for. They require, very little watering. They actually prefer to be a little underwatered. You just wait till the soil is completely dry and just soak them back up afterwards. They can thrive in lower light and brighter light. If you're not giving them enough light, they actually you can see the leaves starting to reach for the light, and just kind of adjust your plants. And don't be afraid to move your plants around in the beginning to kind of figure out the light situation in your house. Most plants will tell you whether they're enjoying the light or not enjoying the light, and don't feel bad. And it's adjustment period for you, and it's adjustment period for them, and you guys will figure it out. But they don't cascade down as beautifully as, let's say, the Pothos. But what you can do is cut them back to make them bushier, fuller plant, because when you cut them, they'll actually start to grow from the top again. Or you can just vine them down and let them go crazy. So another variety of philodendron this is a philodendron moonlight, and this is more of a bush type philodendron, which it looks very different than the Brazil, but also there's different philodendron types that they all kind of look completely different, even though they're part of the same family, but they require about the same care. And I have this one sitting pulled back from a south facing window, probably about 6-7 feet, and it gets indirect light, and it's doing good. It's easy. It's a fast growing plant, as most philodendrons are. In the right lighting conditions, they'll keep sprouting out leaves, and they get big and big and big and big. So again, we have the Philodendron Brazil and the Philodendron Moonlight. As you can see, they're very different in looks, but the plant care is about the same. All right, so those are all of my easy care plants for new plant parents, and let me know in the comments down below if you have an easy care plant that you find very easy in your house, or one of your first plants that you ever had. Everybody was a beginner once, and don't worry about it. I believe you guys can do it just as much as I did it, and like I said, once you start, you can't stop. So be prepared for that. Well, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you want to stick around for future videos, please give us a subscribe, and we'll see you in our next one. Bye.